Dawn had not yet come when Mohita left her bed, donned the uniform that had become like a second shell to her, and made her way toward the Star Palace. Unlike the servants working in the Sun or Sky Palace, whose uniforms were predominantly blue, the color of the king, she was donning predominantly green. As was the case for all the others working in the Star Palace. Not only was this symbolic of the fact that they directly served Her Highness, having the entire staff in the color of the princess also showed the changed power dynamic. Ever since she had been given complete authority over Homie's foreign affairs 3 cycles ago, her word could overturn even that of His and Her Majesty when it came to this topic. The estate housing the servants was located on the backside of the palace. It was separate from the main building, but connected via a broad canopied pathway. Said canopy was laced with a multitude of small, down-facing lights that currently illuminated the otherwise dark route. Despite the early hour, Mohita was by far not the only one up. As soon as the head maid stepped through the servants' entrance, she was immediately greeted by the familiar noises of the servants' daily business that the noble inhabitants of the palace never got to hear. After getting the report from the night shift, Mita dismissed them before giving the morning shift their individual tasks. The first one, of course, was cleaning the palace, a delicate job since it needed to be done thoroughly so as to not embarrass Her Highness in front of her guests, quickly so they were done by the time everyone got up, and lastly quietly to not wake anyone up. The latter meant they couldn't use vacuum cleaners or robots, since those made too noise. That was not to say they didn't have those too, they just couldn't be used during the morning duties. And because of that, despite being head maid, Mohita herself participated in this task as well. Joining the group that was tasked with the East Wing, she started to dust off the countless pieces of foreign art that decorated the hallways. Among them were paintings, sculptures, and statues from various otherworldly cultures which their planet had acquired, most of them being gifts from other members of the Alliance. As she passed a certain door, she halted for a moment. It was the door that led to Lady Nadine's chamber. Mohita couldn't help but wonder if the alien noblewoman could truly hear them breathe through the door. Was there even a point in trying to be quiet? Then again, there was a difference between hearing something when it is quiet and waking up from something. She sighed as she kept looking at the door. 8 days had passed since she had seen it open the last time. Normally, caring for Her Highness's guests was just another task, one of her many duties, nothing more. But with Nadine, things had grown to be different. Since the first day, the young noblewoman had acted in a way that was completely different from what one would expect. In fact, until she learned contrary, Mohita was convinced she was a commoner. Since her arrival, she had treated the servants with respect, always asked and never ordered, struck conversations with them, and even went through the trouble of learning all their names. Therefore, ever since the situation had become what it was, she had wanted to help her, not because was ordered to or because it was expected of her, but because she by now actually found herself caring for her, but she didn't know how. After the cleaning was done, a quick glance at the clock told Mohita that there was only about 1 inva left until the princess would wake up, so it was due time for her next task. Stepping into the office area, she linked her datapad to the central network and took a look at the messages that had come in during the night. As always, they mostly consisted of companies requesting certain resources or products to be added to existing trade agreements. Ever since Lady Kaikla had arrived, most of the requests were about the topic of titanium and that Her Highness should try to make a new deal regarding the metal. With a sigh, Mita quickly skimmed over everything before sorting the messages so that Princess Silvani would first see those that actually had some form of relevance. She encountered Her Highness on her way out, greeted her with a bow, and informed her that today, Riken would be the ones tasked with her direct attendance. Her next destination was the kitchen, but before that, she took a short detour to Vassar's office to see if he needed help with something. While the palace's steward hadn't put up any requests on the digital board, it wouldn't hurt to quickly ask him in person, just to make sure. Under Kabut's direction, the kitchen staff hurriedly prepared the food for the palace's employees, while the head chef himself was busy with the meals meant for the princess and her guests. Today, the schedule was completely reserved for the trade negotiations, meaning he had to make both Tire and human meals. Grabbing what was meant for her, Mita entered the adjacent break room to have a quick first meal. While she ate, she took advantage of the moment of quietness to make some estimations about the planning for the following days. Today was the 8th day since the ambassador's arrival and the 6th day of the negotiations. Under normal circumstances, she would predict the talks to continue for at least 3 more days. Better assume 5, just to be sure. But considering the difficulties they expected this time, Her Highness Mita and Vasar had decided to plan for 15 days, meaning by now 9 were left. They had already prepared everything for that time span, plus 4 days of buffer, safe for some ingredients that couldn't be stored that long. Should it seem like things would take longer than that, they would need to rely on Her Highness to make that call. Stuff acquirable on Homai was no problem, but not everything was. At the current time of the cycle, it would take a fast ship a bit over a day to reach the hyperlane entrance. There was a total of 3 other planets where they could purchase the stuff they might need, and that had the according treaties in place. However, one of them was the Tystree's homeworld itself. A quick glance at her datapad proved her memory correct. They were too far away from their entry point to be an option. Depending on which of the others they'd choose, the jump itself would take about 1 more day. Assuming the relays worked, they could then send a message to the planet. She again glanced at her datapad to look up the other planets' estimated positions. Depending on their choice, the cargo ship would either need 5 or 8 days to reach the hyperlane. 8 was too long. The Krisnel's planet was therefore out of the picture as well. 5 it was, 1 more for the jump back, and since the transport vessel was slower, 2 days to reach Homie. Typing the numbers in the calculator gave her a total of 10 days. And if they didn't want to do everything on the last day, the call for a new shipment had to come in 3 days if needed. It would probably be for the best to remind Her Highness of that. A heavy, salty smell pulled her out of her thoughts. By now, she was able to recognize the fragrance as roasted meat, meaning Kabut was now preparing the meal for Lady Nadine. When she had seen the blood-smeared interior of the shuttle, Mita couldn't understand how someone would deliberately eat something that gave off such a bad odor. The cooked meat, however, she had to admit, smelled at least peculiar. She stood up and walked to the kitchen. Another maid, Gundi, was loading Nadine's first meal onto a tray when Dr. Githay entered. "Doctor," Mita greeted her with a quick bow. "Here to accompany Gundi, I presume?" "Of course. I still need to examine whether the change in diet had some notable effects on her." A short pause followed. "You think she'll open today?" The doctor's gaze fell. "Probably not, but I'll keep trying." She nodded, not knowing what else to say. As they left, Muhita went over the next tasks. "Okay, Lexa and Onrol, you two take care of the meals for Her Highness and the ambassador. While they eat, I'll refill the drinks in the conference room. Naki, is still busy. Okay, then you take care of the laundry, Essa. Forget the report for now. I'll do that myself later." She sighed. "First ones, we should have asked for more than just 2 additional servants. I can take care of the drinks if you want." Surprised by the new voice, Mita turned around. In front of her, holding a water canteen and wearing a blue uniform rather than a green one, was one of the maids that had been called in from the Sun Palace. For some reason, she seemed a bit nervous. "Kaya, right? Why are you here? Weren't you supposed to attend Lady Kaikla?" "I am. She has sent me on an errand." Muhita crossed her arms. "Then I'd say you should probably do that. She is busy talking to Her Highness right now. I have more than enough time to give you a hand." She turned to the door, but Mita stopped her. "I don't know if that is how things are done in the Sun Palace, but here we take the task given to us seriously." Kayala scoffed at that. "Too bad the same can't be said about respecting your seniors. You might be older than me, but in case you've forgotten, I'm still the head maid. A meaningless title given to a meaningless plebeian. You know that I carry the blood of Clan Resla, who ruled one of the largest kingdoms before the Unification Wars and played a decisive role in it." Mita's expression hardened. It was true that her being head maid was unusual. Even among servants, the head of staff was usually someone who was of noble birth, at least in some way, but didn't have any real chances of succession. But that didn't mean that she didn't have a response to that. "Yes, and who also birthed the infamous Duchess Mirla. What, you thought I wouldn't look up the people who get sent here? Your family lost their title before you were even born. You are just as much a commoner as I am." The entire kitchen had fallen silent while the two of them stared at each other. But the tension between them suddenly broke when Kayla took a step back and defensively raised her arms. "Sheesh, no need to get so agitated." She turned her back to them and placed the canteen back on the counter. "I saw you were tight on time and thought you might appreciate some help. Was just an offer, you don't have to take it." Later that day, Silvani was sitting at the desk in her bedroom. Staring blankly, she had spaced out a little while rubbing her forehead. "So sis," her brother's voice shouted out of the datapad, pulling her back into reality. Right now was a scheduled pause in today's talks, which she had decided to use to call her brother. Once he got transferred to Wehrmeyer, which was on the literal other side of the planet, calls like this would become difficult. "I'm sorry, what were you saying?" "Is everything all right?" Concern coming from her brother, the things she was allowed to witness. "Yes, don't worry, just a little headache." "Is Nadine there today?" "Sorry, no." "Come on, is she that busy?" "That's not it, The princess took a deep breath. Ever since she came back, she has locked herself in her room and lets nobody in." "Huh? Why?" "She is scared. After what happened to you, she's afraid it'll happen again." "That's bullshit." Silvani blinked. "That is... what?" Her word. "Whatever. Just let me talk to her," he insisted. "We've been trying that for 8 days," she answered with a sigh. "She doesn't even answer the door." "Have you tried the window?" "Window?" "Yes, her window that's facing the garden. It's always open. That's how I usually get in." "Of course you do," she said sarcastically. "Oh, shut up. You want to help her or not?" "No." Since when was her brother so assertive? "I can't believe I'm actually doing this," Silvani murmured while shaking her head. "Okay, I'm in the garden. What now?" "Go along the wall. Don't use the path. You have to walk on the grass. Make slow, long steps and make sure not to step on dry leaves. Once you are past the orange laska bush, hold your breath. Mess up any of those and she'll hear you coming. I'll mute the call till you're there." "I can't believe I'm actually doing this," she repeated quietly. Avoiding the leaves wasn't too difficult. However, the distance between the bush and the window wasn't small. But for what could be the first time in her life, Silvani was thankful for her tall body, as her long legs allowed her to bridge the distance just before she ran out of air. "Hey!" she panted as she reached her destination. Immediately, Nadine's head snapped in her direction. Not even a tig later, she was sitting on the opposite side of the room, her back pressing against the wall. "Relax, I won't hurt you," she tried to calm her down. However, her joke didn't seem to get appreciated. "You know what might happen," she answered with a tired-sounding voice. "Yes, it may happen that I molt a bit early. I'm close, remember?" The small alien closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Please, leave." "I will," Silvani affirmed with a nod. She then reached into the room and leaned her datapad against the wall under the window so the video call was visible. But he won't. As soon as she stepped away from the opening, she could hear some shuffling in the room. "Kyrton? Kyrton! Oh my God, how are you? I'm so sorry, are you all right?" "No, I'm not," her brother's voice answered. "I'm bored. I wanted to speak with you all the time. Why didn't you let anyone in?" But what happened to you was an accident, and it only happened because I clung to you for multiple invades. Yet you act as if we'll fall over dead just because you touch us once. It can still happen again. My strength is also... Well then, I guess you just have to be careful. I mean, be honest, how many people did you touch since you got here?" Well, there was that one time with Lizo." "And did anything happen to him?" "I think not." "See? First ones, when did I become the voice of reason?" Silvani scowled a bit at her brother's harsh tone. Then again, maybe that helped. In any case, she had to go back now, so she decided to leave the two alone. The sun had set, and the ambassador had left the palace when Silvani heard a knock on her door. It was Mita, the Star Palace's headmaid, who seemed happy for some reason. "Did something good happen?" "Indeed, Your Highness," she answered and gave her a datapad. Said datapad had a video call on it, showing the face of a certain alien. "I must thank you. Also, I am sorry for the last week." "It's fine. Silvani assured her, not asking what a week was. The important thing is that you're coming out again. Well, somewhat. This time the small alien actually chuckled a bit. I just don't want to risk it, but I agree that this can't go on. Therefore, I would like to ask for a few things, some of which might get pricey. Money is not an issue, Silvani insisted, gesturing for Mita to take notes. Go on. First, I would like to resume and double my language lessons. Okay. A bit of a slow start, but she said there would be multiple things, so whatever. Secondly, once I can write, I want someone who can teach me your programming language. With that one, Nadine had lost her, so Silvani simply nodded along. Lastly, I need to speak to the dressmaker ASAP. Sure, why not? What by the first ones was she planning now?